Hello and welcome to the season finale of The Break Room. I'm your host, Lucinda Underwood. This final episode of the season is all about sustainability in automotive repair, and we have an incredible guest for you. Joining me for this conversation is Mark Yamauchi, Sustainability Manager at Toyota Motor North America. Mark, welcome to The Break Room. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me. It's great to have you here today.
Well, thank you. Looking forward to the opportunity.
Yes, I'm very much looking forward to our conversation as well. It's a very interesting topic. We're talking all about sustainability and specifically in auto repair. And, obviously I've got some questions I'm going to ask you on that topic. I'm really excited to learn about it myself. But before we do that, I wonder if you could just tell me and the listeners a little bit more about, who you are and your role with Toyota, what you do.
My name's Mark Yamauchi, Sustainability Manager for Toyota Motor North America, which we set the strategy and policies for all sustainability operations, whether that's our sales operations, distribution operations, manufacturing operations, logistics operations in North America.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so there's a lot encompassed in that, right? Yeah, that's awesome. I'm really looking forward to kind of diving into this more with you. And I mean, let's just start by discussing, why is sustainability important? Why is it important in the automotive repair industry? And how do adopting some of the sustainability practices really help, both the environment and the business?
Yeah, I think first of all, we like to share with our dealers that focusing on efficiency, we're Toyota, right?
Yeah.
And environmental performance saves them money, increases profitability. It's also not only is it good for the environment, but there's increasing customer expectations for companies that are aligned with environmental focus, environmental and social focus in sometimes, and especially in the younger generations. And so that we feel that's really an advantage for a dealer who or an operator to grow his business in his grow and maintain his customer base, their customer base. There's also increasing regulatory requirements that will be upcoming that we can prepare for, and as well as really showing leadership in the communities in which they operate.
Yeah, you made some really, really good points there. I mean, yes, obviously we always look in business, don't we, at enhancing efficiency, like you said. And, Toyota has always been about that with the whole Kaizen philosophy, right? The constant improvement and efficiency, always looking for that profitability. But also, there are ways to do that and also, be socially responsible as well. Right. And I think that's a really important point to make. It's not purely about kind of the profitability. It's like, how can we find that win-win? And you're right. The environment is definitely a very hot topic. It's something that people are paying attention to, definitely the younger generations, which personally I think is a good thing. So, yeah, you want to make sure that you're being responsible. Right.
And a lot of times I think people may be a little wary about environmental efforts. I think a lot of times people think that paying attention to the environment comes at additional cost. That's not what we're finding. We're finding that by focusing on our operation and environmental efficiency, that the dealers can and owners can reduce their costs and operating costs, and thereby increasing profitability. So as you say, it really is a win-win-win.
Yeah, I love that. We always love those, don't we? Right, when we find those solutions. Yeah. So moving on slightly, let's talk about energy efficiency. So what measures can be implemented to really kind of improve energy efficiency? And how would you suggest that, again, our listeners are typically automotive shop owners. how should they be managing energy consumption to reduce cost as well?
This is a really good point because energy costs can have increased quite a bit over the last few years and will continue to do so. So anything that you can invest to reduce the use of that energy is money in your pocket. So sometimes there may be a capital investment for more efficient equipment. We like to guide our dealers, and you don't need to change out your old efficient equipment just for the sake of changing it out, but plan on when you do have to change it out or you have to make a repair, make the conscious decision to go to a more efficient unit, heating or air conditioning unit, and put in the smart controls so you'll be able to maintain those efficiencies. And that's really some of the findings that we have with our dealers, is that over time they have great intentions, they want to be efficient, they have their HVAC and lighting control systems set, but whether it is, we call it operational drift, whether it's mechanical, electrical, or human behavior, to want to tweak the temperature controls or lighting controls for a special event, it just never returns. And then your energy use increases, and therefore your costs continue to increase. So it really takes an effort, but it's well worth it to keep on top of your control systems settings.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. I think it's like anything, isn't it? If it's something that you want to improve, then you need to put focus on it, right? And be aware, and take that time to educate yourself as well. I'm thinking, as you were saying, for shop owners, if it gets to a point where you do have some equipment that needs replacing, take the time to look in to see what kind of technology is available now, because it's technology across the scope is accelerating at a very fast pace, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Right, absolutely. And there's oftentimes uh, incentive programs from the local utilities or local governments to assist in that. Um, so there's opportunities with the equipment, but making sure that your building is well insulated.
Mm.
There's minimum requirements, but you really think about um, how you can maybe go beyond those requirements at very minimal additional cost. Usually, the main cost on insulation, for instance, is the labor to install it. So if you go up the notch on the type of insulation, it's very minimal cost upgrade, but reaping a lot of benefit for as long as that's installed. It's just not, you have to look at beyond just uh, the installed cost and look at
Mm-hmm.
the overall cost of the operations of your building. And this really ties into, in at Toyota, we respect for people and our team members, and the community is very important. One of our top pillars, or the top pillar. So you think about how this affects your employees too. If they can be, if their work environment is comfortable year round, they're going to be happier. They're going to be working more, better for you, and want to work for a company like yours, rather than going down the street and say, "Oh, this guy doesn't care." Yeah, yeah, there's
Right.
icicles in in the garage, right? So this is the way we approach things.
Yeah, and that's a really valid point, because everything is really kind of intertied here. You make a great point there about kind of the employee experience, especially in a time where it's not easy to find people, right? Qualified technicians. That has been a kind of a struggle for a while now. So when you have them, you want to make sure you retain them. And we always think about employee experience in ways of how you pay them, how you treat them, and all these kind of things. But the environment they're in is actually such an important part of that as well. And again, if they are enjoying their experience, they are going to be empowered to offer a great customer experience as well, right? It's all connected.
to that point, your shop is also a reflection on of you have to think of how your customers look at your shop
Hmm.
and how you're treating your employees, so that it's all tied together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Okay, so let's look about balancing the cost of implement. We kind of touched on it a little bit there of, yes, there is that initial investment. If you're upgrading equipment, if you're upgrading kind of the facility itself, you've got that initial kind of investment. How would what tips would you give around kind of balancing those costs with the financial kind of realities of running the business? And then let's talk a bit more about the cost effectiveness of sustainability, I guess. Yeah.
Sure, sure. So again, we provide guidance for our dealers through our environmental program called the Dealership Environmental Excellence Program. It's a
Okay.
voluntary program. So a lot of times, we provide assistance to them so they can evaluate proposals for various types of equipment, solar panels, energy efficiency, HVAC upgrades, to make sure that the proposals are apples to apples, if you will, and making sure that they're using a reputable service provider. So I think that's very, very important. And especially as the whole automotive industry is changing towards electrification.
Hmm.
That is a big challenge for all of us. And we recognize that as we go more towards electrification, get different types of repair process or maintenance processes, different sorts of equipment, and greater electrical draw for fueling, if you will, electrified vehicles. We have to be aware of what that does to our electrical systems and how to manage those loads, additional loads, effectively to manage basically our utility bills. The utility costs have been increasing, and they will continue to do so. And to be honest with you, a lot of the costs for electricity bills usually are on the demand side. So you have to be careful about not only what you're powering, but when you're using that electricity.
Mm.
So the more advanced energy management systems will help you do that, and help you provide the feedback so you can see and schedule those sorts of loads. And some of them even give you a little cost calculator to show you, well, if you switch on the air conditioning at this time, it's going to cost you this much. If you wait or do it earlier, or whatever the case may be, it'll cost you this. And so it's a matter of just staying on top of those operational issues. So it doesn't, and to be honest with you, those are the sorts of savings that you can have day after day. Again, it's more than
Mhm.
just the month that you make the decision and install new equipment or do an upgrade. These are savings and benefits that you reap every day you're operating.
Right. And it's really about making that a long term habit, right? Like you say, things tend to be present of mind when a change has happened, maybe when you've done that initial investment. But then sometimes the focus will shift off of it and it's not being as efficient as it possibly could be. And you're right. I mean, I think managed effectively in that way, you'll start seeing that return on your investment, right? Because through cost savings. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked a lot about specifically energy, right? When we're talking about sustainability, managing costs, and kind of those investments. But I understand, water is also very important consideration when we're talking about sustainability. So could you tell me a bit more about, how that plays a role, and really what we should be considering and thinking about when it comes to water?
Yes, at Toyota, when we look at water, we think about how much water we use, but also what our impact is, our water use is on the community, but also what the impacts are in the community. So there's locations we have in some of our dealerships in the more arid area where there's water scarcity issues. There's issues where there's too much water. flooding,
Mm.
for instance, or sea level rise, and we have to be prepared for that. There's issues where the infrastructure is aging and it needs to be repaired, and sometimes there's not causes scarcity
Mhm.
because of that. So really, when we think about water, we think heavily about um, how we can manage the risks associated with too much water, not enough water, infrastructure issues. And then in some cases, not less so, fortunately, in the United States, but some of our dealerships in Mexico are faced with water shortages to such an extent that the cities around them or in which they are operating have to do without drinking water for days of the week.
Wow.
They schedule this, but and what that means is not only affects all the residents, but also affects our team members who come to work at our factories. So
Mhm.
we are very concerned about that, and we try to think about how we can benefit by our actions, both internally on our sites and within our operations, but think about how we can partner up with others to bring that knowledge or awareness to the communities and work with other stakeholders in the communities to address some of these issues. For instance, leaks in the infrastructure are at aging are a really big deal. Um, right now. And I know some companies are, some of the tech companies are providing their technology to monitor leaks or identify leaks with the local water utilities, thereby being able to repair them and saving, ultimately saving millions and millions of gallons of
Mm.
water and helping the availability in that area. Those are the sorts of activities that we are looking at as well. But for a smaller business owner, it's probably more about, hey, taking more of a active role in terms of informing and seeking out others who are aware of, did you know that this issue could be coming down the road here in the
Mm.
next 5, 10, 15 years? And what can we do about it? Because we don't want to do without water, right? Or so I think that is something that would be very beneficial. Just and shows leadership in your community, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get recognition from those newer customers that say, "Wow, whoever thought this repair company would be thinking that big? I really like them. Let's go get my car repaired there."
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because it's kind of one of these things, again, dependent on where you live, what your reality is. I mean, you mentioned to me there about kind of some of the areas in Mexico that will have effectively blackout days with water, for someone like me where I'm based. I'm like, wow, that's because you take it for granted that it's always there and it's always available. And I think, to your point as well, smaller business owners, smaller shop owners may not necessarily think that that should be something for them to focus on because, how much of an impact can we make and those kind of things. But if everybody had that mentality of, I'm going to learn, I'm going to educate myself on this, and I'm really going to be kind of as responsible as I can with these resources, what a big difference it could make, right? So I think it's really important to have these kind of conversations. Yeah.
Right. And even for their own operations, are they prepared for scarcity issues? Perhaps
Right.
not issues in that local area. Usually we think more of the western half of the United States as being more arid,
Mm-hmm.
but we've seen record storms in North Carolina, flooding, record flooding. Just what did I hear just the other day? Spain has gotten a year's worth
Yes.
of rain in 8 hours.
Yep. That's exactly what it
So
was.
things are changing, and
Mm.
is everyone's operations prepared for that?
Yeah, and again, it's that risk management piece again, isn't it? Of being aware, because you're right. I mean, it seems like year after year we are getting more of these significant weather events, right, across the world. And yeah, it's kind of thinking, am I prepared if something like that happened? What can I do to be prepared for it, manage risk, and also kind of do my part. Yeah. Yeah, I love it. We're getting close to wrapping up time. Before we do, though, I just want, is there anything we haven't touched on? Are there any kind of final sort of thoughts that you would like to kind of finish on this kind of topic of sustainability sort of in auto repair?
So, yes, we think about sustainability, and it's something, again, my job is, you benefit by embracing it and
Mm,
understanding the issues and how it affects you and you affect it. It's really looking at the bigger picture of how the energy connects with water, connects with waste, connects with nature, and how that benefits your operations directly, as well as the community and meeting current and upcoming customer expectations and upcoming regulatory requirements. The
right.
policies are updating all the time. If you lived in Europe, you would have to, in 2 years, put together a environmental plan that you submit and report on what your emissions are and how to reduce your greenhouse gas emissions. That's Europe is ahead of everyone in the world, but others are going to be following.
Yeah, and that's a great point to end on. Is as business owners, you'd always rather be kind of ahead than these changes come down the pipe, and then suddenly it's kind of scrambling to achieve those standards, right, and those regulations. Yeah, yeah. Mark, thank you so much. It's very fascinating conversation. As I said to you before we recorded, it's something I'm not super knowledgeable about myself. So I was really looking forward to learning, and learning I did. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us and appear on the break room. It's been great. Thank you for watching this episode of The Break Room, driven by ShopPros. To learn more about what ShopPros can do for your business, check out shoppros.com. If you like this episode, please leave us a comment or a review, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. The Break Room, where great automotive minds meet.